Before I get to the specifics of what Father Richard Duffield does, I had the great pleasure of working with him for the past few months, in particular on a project to try to preserve Newman's original writings in the archive that resides at the Birmingham Oratory. The Birmingham Oratory was established by Newman and is where he lived and died. And most of his original works still remain there, and we're in the process of building an archive to house all those documents in a proper way. But before I get to specifically what Father Richard does, I think it's important to tell you who he is. And who he is a very holy, faithful, intelligent priest who I think we would be delighted to have here in the United States, and who has distinguished himself at a very young age in England, where the church is under great pressure and under attack in many quarters in a way that we don't even understand here in the United States. What Father Richard does is he is the actor for the cause of Newman's canonization and provost of the Birmingham Oratory. And I think after you hear from him, you'll understand exactly why he was selected for that honor and brought from his home at the Oxford Oratory, which is very new, to come to lead the Birmingham Oratory through the application, which will be this September. The best way I can introduce you to Father Richard and to the life of the oratory is I have a quick, it's about an 8-minute film describing the oratory, the archive project, and everything else, and I wanted to present that to you briefly before Father Richard gives his remarks.
This is Cardinal Newman's own library, and indeed the main library of the oratory. And in here there are a large collection of books, many of which belong to Newman. The library contains books from the last few centuries, though of course it began to be compiled in the 19th century by Newman himself and by the other Oratorian fathers.
John Henry Newman wrote a voluminous amount of letters, correspondence. There's very much of that here. Much of it has been published. Some of the very important pieces of it have not yet been published.
I'm Francis McGrath. I'm the editor of Newman's Letters and Diaries, and I'm also the editor of Newman's Unpublished Anglican Sermons, too. So things just keep on surfacing, and they will continue to surface. And I think the more that people are aware, I don't think we've seen the last of the Newman letters somehow.
And it's extremely important to scholars, not only to have that published and to have it available, but for scholars who are truly very seriously looking at Newman, be able to come to see the notations, to see some of the changes that were made in these documents, perhaps the various forms of it that were produced before the particular document was actually published. These are the sorts of things that will be available if we can preserve these documents, get them in an archivium, in a building where they're secure and safe and well preserved and available to scholars to come and to study.
You know Newman, and you realize that he is married. Now, the story, as I've said, of his turning to the church in the 1830s and 40s is connected with that marriage portion, but it doesn't come out very much in the letters which were published at the time in Sussex. it's in his privacy, his privacy, his prayer devotion, and his diaries that one sees the beginning of what became a very marrying vocation.
After things began to get rather hot in the Church of England, when people could see where his thought was leading him, he really left the centre of Oxford and took up residence with his followers in these cottages outside of Oxford. And it was there on the 9th of October 1845 that he was received into, as he put it, the one fold of the Redeemer by Blessed Dominic Barbary, the Passionist missionary.
The volumes have a particular historical interest because many of them were collected by Newman and by his friends from French monasteries. They were bought directly from the areas where there had been monasteries in France, from monasteries which had been closed down in the French Revolution.
I think I'm very glad that this house is really keeping very much alive the spirit of Cardinal Newman, who was always so loyal, such a loyal son to the Holy See and to the magisterium of the Church.
My first contact with the oratory was a providential thing. I've been a Sylvester soldier, then the Anglican clergyman.
Cardinal Newman obviously had a very strong personal draw towards the character of the oratory, because he realised that what St. Philip had done was to make use of all the ingenuity of human art, and above all music, as a means of drawing people to God.
Newman had experience before his conversion of many different kinds of community life, many different ways in which community life could be lived. And he had to find a form of life that was suitable to himself and his friends as Catholics. And of course he reviewed all the existing orders, including those with very strong intellectual traditions like the Dominicans. He looked at the Benedictines, he looked at the Jesuits. But he fastened on the oratory, which had not been in England until Newman brought it there in 1847. So as far as the English scene was concerned, it was a unique foundation and a new presence for English Catholic life and for national life in general.
Well, my name is Phil Collier. I've been doing the choir all my life. 38 years now I've been doing it. So this is a set of books here that's been taken into the library. As you can see, all the sewing has deteriorated over the years.
The archive project was designed just over 3 years ago. We had quite a few discussions with the local authority and the English Heritage as the bodies responsible for the safekeeping of historic buildings such as the oratory before the location and design of the archive was finalised. It's not a large building, but it's intensely surfaced and highly fire resistant. So that is to provide both the right conditions for the protection of the papers and artifacts, but also to safeguard against fire and flood and so on.
If it's possible to raise funds to help the fathers to build the archivium of Newman's writings, and also to build visitor center for also visitors who will be expected after the beatification. This will be a great work, and I'm very grateful for everybody who can help.